Good evening, everyone. It's that time of the week again. It's Thursday night, which means it's time for another episode, another action-packed episode of Necromaniacs. And this week, my co-host, Jeff Kashid, joins us. How's it going, Jeff?
Hi, Mike. It's going okay. I think last time I talked to you, I told you I was standing in a room of just absolute chaos.
Yeah,
just boxes everywhere. I've organized those boxes into a somewhat more pleasant looking manner, and it's still pretty chaotic around here. Currently, my cats are just digging through all those boxes, having the time of their lives, not knowing they're about to spend 3 days in a car, which is going to be kind of a living hell for everyone involved.
Cats love boxes. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, and they hate cars.
They do.
Yeah. So not looking forward to that. Packing's been kind of interesting. You just moved. I mean, do you do this every time you move? You go through just everything. You find stuff you can't believe you still have. Well,
this last time I moved, 2 years ago, all of my stuff was actually in a storage unit, and all I had with me was like a very, very minimal sort of austere setup from where I was living within that hellhole torture chamber that I was living in, emotional torture chamber that I was staying in. And so I didn't have the stuff I had with me, I literally just had like a gym bag and like some random stuff and some books. And so everything was already packed, by the time I was ready to move. So,
And that's the way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't ideal. There was reasons why that was the case, which were probably was the result of poor decision making on my part. But it is what it is. It did make this move a lot easier though, because everything was already boxed up and in a storage unit.
Yeah, I'm like, how minimal was it? Did you have just like a mattress with like no box spring, no?
No, I had a bed. I had a bed, but it was in the storage unit.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, okay, all right. It's all starting to make some sense. But yeah, I'm just finding like shit. Like I have like a whole big thing of the VHS tapes. I'm like, why? I've moved so many times since VHS has been relevant. Like, why do I still fucking have these? You know what I mean?
Sure.
And oddly enough, I'm gonna keep them. I'm like, well, I can't get rid of this,
dude. I have a VHS player and I have VHS tapes. I like VHS, man.
I found my copy of the OG, The Woman in Black, the one from 1989 that was made for the BBC, never officially released on DVD.
That's a good find, man. That's a good have.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of my top 5 favorite horror movies of all time. So it's good to have a physical copy of it, even if I can't watch it at the moment. I will buy VCR just to watch it, though.
There is I have something similar to that. There's a movie called The Helter Skelter Murders, which came out literally the same year that Charles Manson did his murders. And
weird.
It's like about Manson family, but they don't call anyone the Manson family, but it's literally the story, and it's black and white. It's like super sketchy. It was made in like 1969, very, very hard to find. And Kim's Video had a copy of it. Remember them back in Manhattan?
Oh yeah. Kim's was the best.
So they had a VHS and I dubbed a VHS copy of that movie. Okay. And then several years later, someone bootlegged a DVD, so I bought the DVD. The DVD is edited.
Oh.
Yeah, man. So I have on VHS the uncut version, which has got all these extra cool scenes in it, and then I have the DVD version, which is like hacked to pieces. There's a lot of stuff is missing, and I don't even know, man. I don't know if this movie ever really got like an official release or something like that. But that would be something that like Vinegar Syndrome or something to try to find that and release that proper,
Yeah, totally. That's like that movie Begotten. That's like it was never officially released. Yeah, it's like if you have it, that's pretty fucking cool. Like
Yeah.
that's a really rare find.
Yeah, I have that, like some, bootleg version of it or something, Definitely cool
Yeah,
movie.
yeah, absolutely. Other than that, man, what else? What the stuff I've been checking out? Not much, since I've pretty much
Well,
just been
yeah.
packing, working, and stressing out. But I've been trying to lighten the mood a little bit. I watched the new Jackass movie. Not exactly a horror movie, but still, I mean, here it is. What that started in like I want to say like the late '90s, and here it is, 2022, and those guys are kind of still relevant. You kind of forget the cultural fucking bomb that exploded when that show hit the airs, and it was just like an instant success. And I don't think anyone didn't think it was hilarious just watching fucking buffoons hurt themselves.
Oh, totally, dude. And it reminds you of people and I don't know, like at least like that. I get super nostalgic when I watch the first Jackass movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember going to see the first one in the theater, like in Boston, right near where I lived, right near the shit. I can't remember. Right near, what was that shitty bar? Oh fuck, I'm never gonna remember. Anyway, just going with my friends, buying like a soda, and then just them just dumping a whole thing of whiskey in it, and us just passing it back and forth and getting absolutely hammered and laughing our asses off. It was a good time. But you know what? Watching this on the couch with my friends, not drinking, was still a good time.
Yeah. I have to watch the third one. I haven't seen the new one yet.
Oh, then no, well, yeah. The third one's. I have to say the second one was my favorite, and this one was probably my least favorite, but I still loved it. I still had a great time. It's just, they're trying to like kind of pass the torch to a new generation, and I just don't know if I, care about that as much, And it is funny seeing guys in their 50s like getting like run over by bulls and fucking getting stung by bees and shit. Like they really gave their body to this thing, and good for them. And yeah. One other thing, shout out to my girlfriend Taryn. She was playing this video game that I didn't play. I'm not a really big gamer, but it was called The Sinking City, and it's based on H.P. Lovecraft lore.
Yep.
So it was kind of cool to like watch her play. It was like watching someone play an H.P. Lovecraft novel. That had the creepy setting like completely nailed, the fish people, things like that. So if you're a gamer and a fan of horror, I guess the Sinking City is a good one.
I actually bought it because I have a Steam account, and
What's Steam?
it's like a gaming system. It's like you can do it on your PC. You don't need you don't need a console. And
I see.
All of the Lovecraftian stuff, like I bought a couple of those games.
Yeah.
And I haven't really fucked around with them. I just don't have. I don't know why I got it. Why I even did this, because I just literally don't have the time to do games, really play games like that.
Yeah.
But
that's like her big thing. Like that's how she unwinds. Like when she's done packing for the day, she plays a game. I think it's kind of cool.
I wish I had time, because these games look awesome.
Yeah, like I probably I maybe play like one video game every once in a while, like Red Dead 2, which was just so immersive and fascinating, and I love westerns, so that was fun. But like, I'm not a person that just always needs to have a new game to play or anything like that.
Before I get into my stuff, I just want to give a shout out to our brother podcasts. Of course, that's Break the Apocalypse. Good friend, old friend of mine, John Draper.
Yeah.
And great guys. Into the Necrosphere, brother Jackie Smith. Horror Wolf podcast, Brandon Legion, just did an interview with Mick Garris. It's fucking awesome.
I saw that, and Mick Garris, I love his podcast too.
Oh yeah, man. That's like I'm really proud of Brandon for doing that, man. That's sick, man. He's really racking up a bunch of really good guests, and the interviews are cool, and I mean, Mick Garris is like a big hit, if you ask me, man.
Yeah, that's a big get. Mick Garris is he's a very well-known name in the horror world, and apparently a really, really great guy from what I hear.
He seems nice, man. I listened to his podcast, and he seems just like a nice dude, and also he came off great on Horror Wolf. You know, so
Hey, and you were also on Horror Wolf recently.
yeah, but I'm not a good guy though. You know.
No, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying. You guys were discussing vampire movies, and I was surprised Martin did not make anyone's official top 10 list.
I'm going to be on again actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
It's well, we're going to record it in April. I'm not sure when it's going to actually air, but the topic is Lovecraftian horror.
ooh,
And so
okay,
I have to whittle.
interesting.
I have a list of like 20 something movies. So I got to bring it down to 10. So
Oh, wow. That's back when I would, and you weren't on the internet all the time. I used to just read tons of books about horror, or I looked up like Lovecraftian horror, and I discovered like a lot of cool movies that way that like weren't, you know, directly involved in Lovecraft's lore, but like had sort of its influence, like that movie Possession with Sam Neill, the Polish film that
yeah, I have never
has been.
seen that, man. It's so fucking hard to
Oh,
find. I haven't seen it.
it's really, really, really good. And I ended up tracking down an uncut DVD of it, and it's to call it Lovecraftian is a little bit of a stretch, but it's one of my top 10, maybe top 5 horror movies.
I
It's a
don't, I
good
don't
one.
want to. I don't want to give away what we're going to talk about, but I used a loose Lovecraftian thing. Like the stuff when I think of a movie as being cosmic horror, like Lovecraftian horror, it doesn't necessarily have to be an adaptation of a Lovecraft story. You know what I mean?
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, similar to writing. I mean, there's like tons of like Cthulhu mythos out there by all these different writers. So I apply that sort of license to these films when I made my selections. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think I can guess a few that are going to end up on there.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Okay, good listen.
Yeah, so I actually haven't been watching too many films, man. I've been me and Mike have been going to shows, man. It's like we went to Mayhem, we went to Immolation, we talked about that. I saw Rollins Spoken Word on Friday down in Red Bank.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, man, it was great. It was like 2 hours. It felt like 15 minutes, and it was 2 hours. It was so good.
Yeah, it's a good solo performance like that can really do that. I wasn't aware that he was still doing the spoken word thing. I know. I mean, I think Rollins band's pretty much done. Didn't we just? I think we just talked about that.
Yeah, it's over, man. The Rollins band ended like over 10 years ago, probably.
Yeah. Well, I guess he is what, 60 now?
61.
61. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah, I guess
he looks great though, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I haven't seen him in a while. I'm just in a couple movies here and there, but yeah, I haven't seen him in person. I don't know if I've seen him in person ever, except back in 1991 when I saw him open for Jane's Addiction.
That's a long time ago, man.
It was my very first like alternative rock concert, and I know I mentioned this on the podcast before. Lush was supposed to be the opening band. That's what's on the ticket. So when the Rollins band went on, I thought that was Lush. I was like, damn,
Boy,
this is not what I thought Lush sounded like.
there are adult people that were born in 1991 right now.
I know. I don't like to think about it. I don't like to think about how old I am.
I know, man.
Yeah. Some days I don't feel it. Today I feel it. For sure.
I rewatched a bunch of stuff. Two things specifically. I rewatched Resolution and The Endless by Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. So two of our favorites. We talk about them a lot.
Yeah, we do, and I need to give those a watch, and maybe we'll talk about them.
And that's in preparation for the new Moon Knight series, which is getting ready to drop as we record this.
Hope that's good. I have a feeling it will be.
I know it's. I'm not gonna put my foot in my mouth if I say I know it's gonna be good, but I have high hopes. I have high expectations.
Cool. Yeah. I'm not a big Marvel guy. I'm not really a big comic book guy in general, but I always appreciate anything those guys are involved with. And Oscar Isaac usually doesn't pick bad stuff to be in, so
yeah. I discovered a new writer, Ted Klein. He has a collection of novellas called Dark Gods, and I highly recommend it.
Does he spell it with like a period in between each? Like
exactly.
Yeah, I know. Yes, yeah. God, yeah. Back when I used to take a bus to Asheville, North Carolina, from Boston. Did that a couple times. Took a Greyhound, and I would buy these horror collections because it's something to read on the bus. And he was always in them,
Yeah.
and he was always one of the better.
Yep.
His stories were like, one of like, oh, that was one of the best ones in this collection. That's cool. That's cool. That he has his own collection. I should fucking check that out.
Yeah, it's got 4 novellas in it. It's like, dark, weird fiction kind of stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah.
It takes place in New York City. It's I don't know, it's cool. And I reread, I have this Del Rey collection of King Kull, or Kull, rather, by Robert E. Howard.
Oh, okay.
And it's like the sort of lesser known barbarian hero that he has, but he's actually, there's not as many Kull stories, but I kind of like, he's more brooding, and a lot of the stories that about King Kull are these kind of like introspective, like Lovecraftian cosmic horror, like flavored dark adventure, dark, heroic fantasy like stories.
Right.
And specifically there's this story called Mirrors of Tuzan Thune, which there's no action in it. It's just like an H.P. Lovecraft story. It's like him staring into a mirror and seeing like the bleak future and the unfolding in front of him. It's fucking awesome, man.
That name either sounds like an 80s goth band or a current black metal band or something.
Mirrors of Tuzan Thune. Yeah.
Yeah. Like
totally.
Some 80s new wave band that never quite made it.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that all sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Did you watch the Oscars?
No, I don't give a fuck about that stuff, man. I know that Chris Rock got smacked up by somebody, and like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched the Oscars in a few years, but I just found that whole thing sad, and there was a whole big thing about it that I was like, you know what, I can't pay attention to this.
I feel like where
foolishness.
Our society is like an all-time low, man. I gotta be honest,
I would have to agree. When this was like the main, when people who were applauding Will Smith's behavior are usually the kind of people like, they'll say violence is bad, toxic masculinity is bad, but it's okay when this guy says something you don't like to go up and slap him.
Yeah, no, I'm a firm believer, despite what some of you out there might think, that I don't think people should just wantonly, smack people. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's a positive thing to do, and I don't support just like random acts of violence like that.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, the whole thing is just silly, and I didn't see it, but I sure did hear an awful lot about it today.
Yeah.
Just curious if you saw it.
I saw like a 10-second clip of him smacking him. I'm like, who are these guys? I didn't know who it was at first, and then I was like, oh wow, Will Smith is like really uptight, and Chris Rock got smacked, and he took the shot pretty good. He like kind of like he kind of rolled with it a little bit, so he didn't get the full impact. I don't know.
I mean, he's a fucking pro. He's one of the best. I think Chris Rock's one of the funniest people to ever do it, And I just, I think it's a somewhat dangerous precedent if like a comedian says something that someone in the crowd doesn't like, you can just get up and slap him.
It sets a bad precedent,
Will Smith
man.
did it.
Yeah, it sets a bad precedent, and that's the whole point of comedy and like roasting people. It's like you're supposed to like talk shit. Now it's like, I guess it's not okay to do that anymore.
Yeah, it's just it's silly, and there's enough in the world going on and going wrong.
Oh, I know, dude. Everything's going to hell. It seems like, man. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah, but we're still here.
And that leads us to tonight's subject, or tonight's film. Fresh.
Yes.
Yeah. Fresh.
Yeah.
So yeah, this Jeff and I watched Fresh, and it's a new film.
Brand new.
Came out January 20th at the Sundance Film Festival, and then the U.S. release on Netflix was just a few weeks ago, March 4th, 2022. And it's 114 minutes long, and I'll get into that, why that's a significant number.
Yeah. Yeah.
And directed by Mimi Cave, and this is her first film, I believe.
It is.
And written by Lauren Kahn. Yeah. I just want to run down the cast. I don't know who any of these ladies are really. I'm sorry if I'm missing out on something here, but run down the cast because there's some pretty. I think the cast in this, for the most part, was awesome. I think specifically the two co-stars in this did a great job. So
I agree with you there.
Yeah. Daisy Edgar Jones, British actress. She co-stars as Noah, and if any of you guys out there who watched the UK France series War of the Worlds will recognize Daisy, and she's great in this movie. Sebastian Stan, aka the Winter Soldier, aka Tommy Lee, also co-stars in this as Steve and or Brendan. So he's kind of like, he has like a fake name. We'll get into all that stuff, The rest of the cast is rounded out by Jonica T. Gibbs as Molly. That's Noah's buddy. Yeah. Charlotte Laban as Anne. Deo Okeniwi as Paul. Andrea Bland as Penny. I'm sorry, Andrea Bang as Penny. And that's like, I got a kick out of that name because it sounds like a porno name, or like if you're like a Muay Thai kickboxer or something, you know what I mean? It's like could be one or the other.
There's a weird emphasis on girls' names in this movie, sort of that comes up later, but
yeah. And then Brett Deer is Chad.
Chad.
That's like the perfect like white dude name.
Yeah, I feel like that was very specifically chosen for that character.
Yeah.
I just want to say up front, I'm not going to give the movie away, but we might get into slight spoiler territory because there are aspects of this movie that I think have to be discussed, and it might be a little spoilery. So just a warning, if you haven't seen Fresh yet, you might want to watch it before listening to this episode.
Well, just fair enough, but also there's not really much of a plot in this movie. So
there really isn't.
Yeah, so it's not really like, oh my God, that's the ending. You're not going to have a moment like that. So I mean, number one, if you don't want to hear about the film in relative detail, watch it first. It's on Hulu. I'm sorry. Actually, I was wrong about that when I said earlier that it was on Netflix. It's actually, it's on Hulu. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. Okay. I believe it went straight to Hulu. I don't think this played in theaters at all, as far as I know.
It's on Hulu. Yeah. Searchlight Pictures on Hulu, not on Netflix. I'm sorry if I misled anybody out there. And so yeah, essentially the plot. This is straight off the internet, man. The plot follows a young woman who starts dating a charming man. Obviously, that's Sebastian Stan. Only to discover his horrifying true nature. That's the byline of the film.
Yeah, and even knowing that, I went into this movie completely cold. My friend told me he saw it and he really liked it. And I was like, all right, I'll check it out. I kind of saw like a trailer in the background, but wasn't paying too much attention. So I really didn't know where the movie was going at all. And I think if you do, like, it's maybe a little less interesting, even though, like, just watching it, you can predict kind of some of the things that are going to happen. I mean, the common theme throughout the movie is like, the nice guy's never actually the nice guy.
Well, a couple things regarding that. It kind of paints a very bad picture for men in general, really, because it's like the douchebag's a douchebag and the nice guy is a fucking murderer, you know what I mean, or like a abuser, It's like it's not who's good,
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Right off the bat, this movie reminded me a lot of American Psycho. As far I could feel the influence of American Psycho on this movie, which weirdly has a lot of the same themes that like men are monsters and women are victims of these monsters. I think American Psycho pulled it off in a much more clever, more interesting way than this, but the influence is definitely there.
Yeah, definitely. And so if you want to watch the movie and then listen to this, go ahead. But we're going to talk about some of the particulars of the film, and we might ruin it for you, and I apologize. So,
So yeah, but this is kind of like two movies together. Like the movie starts out like basically like I wrote down, app dating is hell.
Sure.
We're introduced to our lead, Noah. She's about to go on a date. That's someone she met on like Tinder or something like that. And, the guy immediately texts her to remind her that the place you're going to is cash only. So, he's not going to pay. And it's funny just watching this uncomfortable date. It's cringy, but it's more played for laughs than outright, like anything like scary or horrifying. Just like, look at this guy named Chad with his like little beard, and he's got his scarf on inside.
Scarf.
And
yeah.
Yeah, he carries hot sauce with him everywhere because he thinks that's like an interesting thing about him, but he doesn't realize like no one gives a shit.
That's the thing, man. That reminds me of like a dozen people that I know when I lived in Brooklyn in like 2005 or something like that, where it was like, oh yeah, I love hot sauce. I put it on everything. I think that's what he actually said. I put it on pizza. I put it on egg. Like fucking. With a mustache, that kind of shit, like.
Yeah, yeah, and this guy, I mean, like, a small part, but he played it really, really well. Like, like this guy was just such an unlikable douchebag right away, and like, he makes like, he thinks he's like this classy, cultured guy, but he makes comments about how like women dress nowadays and shitty things like that, and he, and when she's like, "Hey, I don't think we're a match," the nice guy facade drops, and you see like the asshole he really is.
He got super dark, man. Like the guy didn't handle rejection very well. You know what I mean? He got like really, really dark, and it got kind of like uncomfortable. And I thought that was like, kind of set the tone. I think a little bit. There's like
absolutely.
Yeah, there's a mask. That people put on when they want to appear attractive to other people. And this guy's mask was flawed because, he's projecting this image, which sucks, that he thinks is cool, but it really he's not cool at all. And when she responds negatively to that, the mask drops away and you see this like totally misogynistic, asshole basically, so
yeah, it's almost like
it's like a setup, I think, for the rest of the film. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it doesn't go into it, but you can imagine if this guy was like real and was like tweeting, he'd probably tweet about how much he respects women and things like that. You know what I mean? He's like, well, but in reality, he doesn't really. Like he's that much of a piece of shit.
Well, yeah. There was that one statement which you touched on where Noah's wearing like a casual sweatshirt, like a sweater, and he says something about the women from our parents' generation, they just they took better care of themselves. They were aware more of what their appearances were, how they dressed. And I was like, dude, like, you're in like some pretty chintzy restaurant, really.
Yeah.
If I was trying to like romance like someone, I wouldn't take him to a place I wouldn't meet him there. This guy didn't even take her out. It was like a Dutch scenario where they're both paying,
Right. Yeah. It's no class.
Yeah. Just low rent all the way around on this guy,
And you know what? Like this whole thing is a reality. Like, Mike, I don't think you've ever been on a dating app. I imagine, no?
I haven't done that sort of stuff. But have you have experience doing that?
Very little. Well, the girl, my girlfriend, I met on one of those, and we went on one date, and she's just been my girlfriend ever since. So but like,
that's cool.
She was single a little longer than me, and she has not unsimilar stories to things like that. This whole Instagram page is dedicated to like this stuff, like Tinder nightmares or By Felipe, where it's like. They basically like shame these dudes who are like, "Hey, you want to hang out?" And the girl's like, "No, not really." He's like, "You fucking bitch, you're ugly. I was just trying to be nice."
God, like, man,
it's totally like a real thing for anyone out there who thinks like this scene is exaggerated. It is not. Like,
It's
and
not.
then
It's
like
funny, but it's not funny. You know. You know?
no, I know exactly what you mean. And like the scene gets a little bit dark when she goes to like walk to her car and she feels like, someone's behind her and she tenses up. So I think, yeah, this whole thing sets up the tone of like, the nice guys aren't nice and it's a dangerous world and dating is hell.
Well, and also, I mean, you and I are both men, and we exist in the world in a different way too. I mean, I understand. Like, I don't understand, but I have made myself understand how, how women are a little bit more vulnerable than we are out there in the world. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to like fucking, whatever. This is how I see things. You know what I mean? It's a little bit easier for a man to overpower a woman. That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to get political or like, I don't want anyone to like, oh, well, like, I don't want to get into that. You know what I mean? I'm just telling you the way I see the world. Okay. You could agree with me or not. So with that said, I've grown to understand that, and I can understand like the dark alleys, like some weird guy like behind you. Like, these things don't concern me necessarily, but if I was a woman, I would definitely feel more aware of my surroundings in those ways. You know what I mean? And this movie puts that front and center. You know what I mean? Like that you are a potential victim, more so than like a guy,
Yeah, absolutely. I think comedian Dave Chappelle said it best when he was doing a whole story about carrying $20,000 for something, I can't remember what, on a train, and like how like terrified he was. Like he's like, I honestly in that moment he's like, I get it. Like now I know what it's like to be a woman every second of every day. And I was like, oh, that's a pretty good analogy.
Yeah,
that was pretty smart. But anyway, yeah. So really interesting open. I also noted the music in this part was kind of cool. I don't know who it was, but it kind of had like a Black Heart Procession thing going on.
Yeah, I thought the movie was pretty. That the score was actually pretty good during that scene.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we meet her best friend Molly. And this is again one problem I have with the movie is the scenes with her, with our main character Nora, and everyone else work really well. The stuff with her best friend felt really stilted and like almost out of like a rom-com. I don't know if that was intentional because this is billed as a black comedy horror movie, but like the dialogue they have together, it's just like it's not how people really talk. And it's like they're in the middle of like gym class and like, so tell me about your date, girl. Like it was it just didn't feel natural to me at all. Like I didn't buy that these two were best friends at all.
Yeah, there's a couple other things too. All right, and this is like there are parts of this script that it feels like that someone took the outline and they were like, all right, now where are we going to add the woke kind of stuff that we need to put in there for the millennial age, like we have to have like we have to have at least one gay character. So we forced Molly, we like shoehorned her character into being queer. Maybe not gay because she has. We meet Paul later, this bartender who plays an important part of the story, and
the best character in the movie.
Yeah, he's the only guy who's cool, Yeah. And they had a thing,
Right.
But I don't know. It just didn't feel like I understand in this day and age, people do whatever, and that's cool. You do you. But as far as like a narrative goes, it's just too many elements. You know what I mean? That, and it has that pandering like feel to it. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, a little bit. I just don't know. Maybe like the actress who played Molly just wasn't as good in her performance. She wasn't bad in other scenes, but I just felt like those two, like it just, I don't know, like it just didn't. I just didn't buy them as best friends. Their dialogue just was kind of goofy and like I said, out of a rom-com. Like the only thing they seem to talk about is Noah's dating life, and it's just like,
well, she's concerned that she's single, and lonely and all these things, and just failing. Like not that she's failing, but that like her she's not just not meeting the right guys. Like the wrong, all the solutions are the wrong solution. You know.
Right. And, you know, again, that's another thing, like young dating on apps. Like, it can get very frustrating because you start to think everyone around you is kind of an asshole because it's a weird way to interact with people. It's totally new. And, well, it's not totally new, but it is new. And then she meets someone in real life in this kind of meet cute, again, out of a rom-com. She's at the grocery store. And this guy's at the grocery store. And I underlined this. Was it cotton candy flavored grapes? Is that real? A thing?
I don't know. I was going to ask you. I never heard of it.
I was going to ask you. Like, I've never in my life heard of that. And, you know, obviously, you know, Sebastian Stan, charming, good looking guy, just comes up and she's like, she can't believe that this, you know, like, oh man, maybe I met someone in real life.
I got to say something about the,
okay.
He's kind of a little old for her too, in a weird way, right?
You know, that came up actually, and like I like the age. Like she seems to be like she's what, maybe 26, 27?
No, she's not even that old.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I was doing a little bit of research on IMDb, and she's only like 20 or something like that, and Sebastian Stan's like almost 40.
Is that it?
36, 37 or something like that, I think.
I thought he was like probably early 40s, I was going to guess. Oh, at least the character that he plays in this movie, like, would probably be that age. You know, he you know, he's a doctor. He's got a couple kids.
All right, Sebastian Stan is 39.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So yeah, he's like 40. So he's like probably like 20 years older than this young lady.
Interesting. Yeah.
So but, I don't know if that plays any. I can see how that might enter into some of this stuff too. You know what I mean? Like victimizing young women and stuff. You know?
Sure. The movie doesn't really touch on that though. So I was like, well, maybe that's intentional, their age difference, but that really doesn't come up at all.
No, it doesn't. You're right.
I have to say, I did notice a lot of foreshadowing going on the rewatch of this. During these first few scenes, you know, there's a lot of, you know, when they're in the restaurant, they're at a Chinese restaurant, she's on her date with Scarf Man, Chad. You see like close-ups of like a crab in the tank, you know what that crab's about to be eaten. You see like the chopping of the ducks and then like had the meat being hung up. And I noticed that when they're in the supermarket, when they go like the wider shot of Noah in the background, you see a fresh meat sign. It had to be intentional.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, like you, I didn't know anything about this movie. I heard an interview with the filmmaker on Mick Garris's podcast, and I was like, huh, people are talking about this. I ran into this dude, Dean Rispler, at the Immolation show, and he told me this was one of his favorite movies of the year so far. So I'm like,
that sounds like a made-up name.
No, he's a fucking solid dude, man, out there.
Yeah,
but
cool.
Yeah, that So I'm like, I should check this out. Like enough people tell me about this. So I went into this blind. I didn't know about anything, but all of this like meat and visceral stuff was kind of gearing me up. That I'm like, okay, this is like, you know, this is something here. This is like building up to some kind of like meat, blood type of thing, you know? And so yeah. I mean, I didn't know. I didn't know anything about it. We were going along. Sebastian Stan seems like a nice guy. You know, he's like charming. I'm like, he's a little too old for her, in my opinion, but whatever. Hey, it's the 21st century. You know.
Interesting thing I noticed too when they go on their date, like because you know he gets the number because he's the good looking guy at the grocery store. I noticed she's dressed a little bit less casual on this date.
Yeah.
Than she was with Chad. I don't know if you picked up on that.
I did, and yeah, because that scene stuck out in my mind because that guy was so dislikable. And I'm like, what kind of person says that to someone? You know what I mean? Like, so that I noticed when she was out at the grocery store, she was like, you know, a little bit more put together.
Yeah,
And yeah,
or when they go, when they go out to a bar on an official date, like she's wearing like a nicer like shirt or something like that, not just like a casual sweater, like, which I thought was like an interesting touch that like she wanted to maybe like impress this guy a little bit more. She really like had hopes for him, like, ooh, like I like this guy, I'll maybe not put on the like hanging out at home sweater.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I also
Whereas
imagine
like,
the cynicism that must arise out of these like apps and stuff, using these apps for dating probably set you up for having like a bad time, maybe. You know what I mean?
yeah, and also maybe Chad's shitty comment maybe got to her a little bit.
Yeah,
You know how sometimes someone
sure.
says something shitty to you, you get a bad review, and it gets stuck in your head, and it might like affect the way you might like approach a song differently because of some asshole wrote something shitty about you. um, there's also a little bit of that in there, but like anyway, yeah, this guy seems too good to be true, and it's interesting him like asking for all these questions about her life. They seem to be like to get to know you questions, but really those questions have a much more sinister undertone. And like I said, not going in this movie completely like blind. I was like, there's a lot of red flags about this guy. Like,
Well, yeah, I mean, he's like definitely too good to be true. Like he just, oh, he's so sensitive, you know. Like he's like such a nice guy. He's like, you know, whatever. This like handsome dude, you know, like he's got money. You know what I mean?
yeah, and
And
he
yeah,
doesn't eat animals.
yeah, he doesn't eat animal. It's like,
Another bit of foreshadowing there.
yeah, yeah. So they decide to go away, and well, first of all, they bang right away. Boom, done. You
Yeah,
know?
hey, it happens.
Yeah.
No judgment.
And hey, it's the modern world. You know, it's cool.
Yeah.
And,
But this is a big Mike. Would you ever like if anyone was like, "Hey, you want to get away for the weekend? I'll tell you when we get there. It's a surprise." Like I just feel like like she's so like seems at this point really enamored with the guy, and she seems like he's like it seemed like a bit of a stretch. It would go along with it that fast, but I guess you needed to move the movie along. It's already almost 2 hours.
Molly sees the red flags. You know what I mean?
Right.
Molly's suspicious of this guy, and but she's Noah's swept up away in the romance, and he seems like such a non-threatening guy. Whatever. But obviously, I honestly, you know what I thought was going to happen? I thought this was going to be like some kind of like sacrificial, satanic, fucking pagan altar kind of thing. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, I didn't. I honestly didn't know. Like the whole thing. I did not see that coming. Okay, yeah. So they go away. He drugs her, and I want to bring up that like that scene was done really, really well and was very creepy.
yeah,
Because you see it from her point of view at first. Like the camera looks just slightly off, and every time they cut to her perspective, it seems just a little bit more off. And then, she flops on the floor, and 33 minutes and 10 seconds, I think, the credits roll, the opening credits. And I thought, wow, we're in for this is like a Hitchcock kind of thing where he kills off the person you think is the main character 30 minutes into the movie. That's what I thought. But when I saw she was still alive, yeah, I wasn't really like sure where the movie was going. I was like, this is kind of where like the movie kind of loses me a little bit. Is this second half post opening credits scene?
I think I agree with you on that, because then it becomes like like a dressed up, fucking hostile type of, you know what I mean? Like, all right, now we have a bunch of women chained up in like this basement somewhere, and this guy's like cutting pieces of them off to sell to rich white people. You know what I mean? Like rich white men old
Yeah. Yes.
white
Older.
men. So we've seen it before. You know what I mean? Like this type of like I'm not a big fan of these types of things. You know what I mean? Like I don't like where you get these films where it's like torture porn or like Hostel, where you're like roughing up women and smacking them around. That's not my thing, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Same. I'm not into those kind of movies.
So
They can
like,
be well done.
yeah.
But like.
So whatever angle this has, it was losing me because I was starting to lose interest in it already. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and I thought, I was like, okay, well, cannibalism is a very disturbing idea to me.
Yeah.
It's something that really just bugs me at my core. Like really, like I have a hard time with it.
I think most people would agree with you on that.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Someone's at home listening, like, oh, I don't have a problem with it. I try it. And I thought, I was like, okay, like throwing the opening credits 33 minutes into the movie, I think we're going to get a shift in tone, and this is going to be really dark. But like the movie kind of keeps this weird sort of this is kind of funny tone to it, like, and not really like I just thought, given the subject matter, like it should have gone a bit darker.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like agree with you on that. Like it should have almost been like in Martyrs or something like that, where when it turns that corner, it goes heavy, and it would have been way more impactful. But then again, you know, this they wanted to make a dark comedy, you know. But yeah, I don't know how successful they were at that. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, there's humor to be mined from everything, like dark humor. From anything, but this kind of goes like, it doesn't really have like the cleverness of these like subtle, dark, funny things. It just, there's a lot of like goofy stuff of like, now that it's revealed that Steve's a total psycho, it shows him like dancing around to like 80 songs while he chops up someone's leg, and you see like the whole preparation angle and how that all works. And like, yeah, you have this like goofy like song playing over it that just, I don't know if it really quite works with given the subject, you know what I mean?
I agree with you on that. I don't think it works at all because it's like you've seen it already. This isn't like this part. The beginning I thought was brilliant, honestly. Up until they rolled the credit, I was like, wow, this is actually, I'm really engaged in this film. But then when we got into the basement, it just seemed like a rote, generic sort of story at that point. Okay, crazy guy, I'm dancing. I have a knife. I'm cutting up people. It was a very well traversed path of showing an insane guy with this fucked up idea that he has. You know what I mean? There was nothing. It just became like an execution of the story at this point.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it just sort of like, it has some interesting ideas. Like you find out Steve's real name is Brendan?
Yes. And
he has a wife and a family. And there's a shower scene where you see his wife disrobe and that she is missing part of her leg.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like she was probably intended to be one of his victims. And somehow, won her over and is now kind of a part of this thing, this operation. Because
actually, one of the things they should have played this up more too, is because, all right, well, one of the things that comes out is that he normally hasn't slept with any of the other women that he ends up, chopping up. Okay, he slept with Noah, so there was like an attraction there and a fascination he had with her. So she was like special, you know what I mean?
Right.
They don't really play that up, like that conflict and I think that would have been an interesting conflict to explore in the movie, because he has a wife and she obviously came out of the basement, she's missing a body part. Mm-hmm. And then we have Noah, who he chops off part of her glute, her ass basically.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
I had some thoughts. At first I was like, is this some sort of like joke about eating ass or something? because I get it, like from a filmmaker standpoint, they're like, well, you can't eat the leg, then she's gonna be like, how's she gonna get away? But like, you take her ass off, like, how much fucking pain you would be in for like months at a
Dude.
time, and how you would not be able to walk or do anything really.
Yeah.
That bothered me. Like, I know it's a movie, I know it doesn't have to be 100% real, but like basically, like, she gets her ass removed, and then like, I think she's been missing for a week, so basically, like, yeah, like she can walk and run and sit with no problem.
Dude,
you just see a little bit of blood.
That part of your body, that posterior chain, is where you get all of your power from.
Yeah.
Like all of your like athletic power comes from like your glutes and your hamstrings and your calves and all that kind of stuff. So with that, having being mutilated like that, you would be a mess, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also want to point out that like Steve, like, he's, for someone, you get the sense he's been doing this a long time. He's not very good at it. Like, he leaves like a trail a mile long. So much so that the best friend is able to track him down. Like,
oh yeah, there's we got to talk about the cell phone thing, which that was like, dude, honestly, all right. So of course, Molly's concerned. She thought this whole operation was fishy, so she's trying to get in touch with Noah, and Steve/Brendan is responding to the texts on the cell phone. Now,
right.
You kind of know when it's just one of those things, man. Like if I was texting you, I would know if you were responding. There's this thing, man, like the way people interact, like how they misspell certain words, or how the phrases they use, or they use like a certain memes or whatever,
right.
or certain emoticons rather. But so he gets a picture off of like Getty Images or something like that. He sends it to her.
Yeah.
Oh, that's where we're at, and then. She does a very smart thing. She takes that image and puts it in Google, and it comes up as like some generic fucking waterfall or something like that. And then she knows that something's fucked up.
Yeah, exactly. And like, she goes to the bar that they went to, where she had a thing with the bartender, the coolest guy in the movie.
Paul. Yeah.
Paul. And like, like it just seems like, okay, if Steve had half a fucking brain or was good at his criminal job, he wouldn't leave like a paper trail or anything like that, paid cash or something like that.
Exactly.
He just does so many boneheaded things in this movie that it was like hard to like think that this guy was able to get away with it for this long.
Yeah, because they track him down because of his receipts from his Visa, his credit card, and it's like, yeah, I would be, if you were trying to do crimes, you don't want to have like a footprint like that. You'd be like, you'd pay in cash, and then you would use that. Oh, I pay in cash. I don't like credit. That would be your quirk. I only pay in cash. Yeah. Some old school like affectation or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Just throw a line in there, something like that. I don't know, but like, yeah, it was just too easy. Like everything kind of like came a little bit too easy. Like like he's Nora realizes like, all right, she's not just going to like punch him in the face and run out of here. She needs like a real plan if she wants to live, if she wants to escape. And there's another, like she's going to woo him. And because she thinks like, she's told, oh, he slept with you. He doesn't normally do that because there's other girls imprisoned in there. You can't see them, but they talk to each other through, I guess, vents. Which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but okay.
You would have you would probably have these people isolated, really,
Right. And so that's your plan, like, because like, he already thinks you're special, but like, again, like they make it seem like these two had like this big bond, but I don't really like see it. He's always like, you're unique, you're different. Like me, I'm like, well, I didn't really see any of that at first, but okay.
I think they have chemistry for sure.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
sure.
Definitely. There's like they interact well, and I believe that they like each other. That I can see that, but I think that they should have just played it up as like a miscalculation on his side, as being like infatuated with her, because I don't really see anything in her that makes. Well, I guess, okay, the meals that he prepares. She ends up eating flesh. Okay.
And this, yeah,
Yeah. And that really is the only thing that makes him think that she's like him. You know what I mean?
right. And it is it's a bold move on everyone's,
Dude.
the filmmaker's part. And this again, kind of like, I'm like, if they go somewhere interesting with this, then this will be worth it. Like, but they don't go anywhere interesting with it at all. Like, it's just something she needs to do to escape. And I mean, I think that's something that would probably like scar you for life,
dude.
knowing you ate another person. I mean, at one point she eats a part of her friend.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's where Molly tries to save her, and she ends up getting captured herself.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And I was like, this is really like a disturbing idea. I hope this comes back around at the end. It doesn't.
no.
It's just something like a means to an end. Well, it shows her vomiting after her first time, but then, she ends up eating like, two other people, not whole people, but, parts
Pieces,
of two other people.
Yeah.
It's,
Because I guess the angle that he has is he doesn't like slaughter you like in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like it's not like they hang them upside down and slit their throats and drain blood out of them. He just cuts like these choice pieces and keeps them alive, and hence the name Fresh. Keeps the meat fresh, and then bags it up and sends it out to these perverts out there in the world to die. Oh, and also there's like a super kinky like weirdo angle where they he'll ship along like underwear or like a blouse or something like that of the woman whose flesh they're eating.
Yeah, and he mentions like they're eating that meatball pasta dinner, and just like he's like this meal is $30,000. Again, like I just feel like this is kind of territory that's been covered a lot. And when she started eating people, I'm like, oh, okay, this is an interesting angle. Like, and with the stuff with the wife, I'm like, this is gonna be really dark, and she's gonna end up replacing the wife.
That's where I thought it was going too, man. I thought that it was going to have this like very cynical ending, where it's like, see, I would have appreciated that more. You know what I mean? Where if the ending just had this like really dark, cynical turn to it, instead of like, because at the end of the day, she did eat human flesh.
Right. And her ass is missing.
Yeah, and her ass is missing. She's like, one of her butt cheeks is gone,
Yeah, I just feel like like more emphasis on that and like what it did to her like psychologically would have been like a much more interesting movie. And instead, yeah, it's just like goes through the numbers of something you've seen a million times, because eventually her plan works. She gets loose. The bad guys are dead. The end. And like, I was like, is that really it? We sat through this almost 2-hour movie. And like, I just feel like these interesting, like maybe like a shot of her, like an epilogue of like, her sitting down, looking at a hamburger with disgust, or like, looking at a person with like lust, like she's like, now she's going to be like the new Steve something. But it basically ends with like, oh, glad that's over with.
Yeah. Let's go back to normal life, like, Yeah, there's no aftermath. There is no consequences to any of the things that happen. There's no anything. It's just that was fucked up. Let's go on with our lives.
Yeah, it was just such a bizarre way to go with this. Like, I mean, it's not a bad movie. I just don't feel like it connects the dots. I don't think it's as fully realized as this concept could be. Like, okay, we've seen this kind of thing before. Like, what's going to be our take on it? And, it's kind of funny, I guess. Like, it ends with, like, the camera pans over and she gets a text from Chad. Like, yo, you up? Or something like that. Which I was like, oh, okay, that came full circle. The theme of dating and nightmares and all that. But, like, I just don't think it had the guts to really go through with like the darker, more interesting aspects of this.
Yeah, I have
Uh,
like a little statement about this. I think here, and
oh, well, let's hear it.
yeah, I think I have to research this more too. But I don't know if the filmmakers are actual people who are interested in making horror movies.
Hmm.
I think that, and this is probably a projection, you know, and it's like they're not interested in telling a horror story. You know, they don't. There was very horrific things that went on in here, but the characters didn't really go through any kind of like trajectory. You know, I mean, there was no aftermath to all this like horrible things, and I think that they're just the filmmakers are trying to make a film about like toxic masculinity and all this other stuff, and you know, like topics. You know, like cultural topics, and they don't really care about horror necessarily.
I could probably see that, yeah. Like, or like how to like maybe they wanted to bring those ideas into like explore those ideas in like a horror setting, which they do, but to some degree of success. You know, like even the bartender guy who like you kind of like. I really thought his moment at the end was the funniest moment in the movie, where you think he's coming to save the day, and he's like, "Ah, fuck this,"
Yeah,
and then that's it. That's how he leaves the movie. He doesn't die. He doesn't save the day. He's just like, "Nah, fuck this."
yeah, you know,
Like, I thought that was hilarious. Actually, I thought it was probably the funniest. Like that really made me laugh when it was all said and done. I was like, God, that guy just totally was like he was like feet away from them. I was like, no, I don't think so. I've seen the horror movies. I know how this ends for me.
yeah. And I think kind of like there's a lot of filmmakers these days that just I think are not trying to tell horror stories. Like they're trying to like do some sort of socio-political, cultural commentary, which it definitely has a place in the horror genre, you know. But they don't
Absolutely.
they don't do it in an artful way. Like the first Candyman movie, right? The first one,
Right.
not the second one, the first one.
Oh, the remake, you mean? Yeah, or whatever.
Yeah,
Sequel,
well,
whatever the fuck that was.
not
Yeah.
the sequel. Well, I guess it is technically a sequel, but the one that came out just a couple of years ago.
Yeah. I hated it.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, just like okay, you have some things on your mind. That's great. It's a great looking movie, but
Sure.
that's really all it is. It's just like reading someone's Twitter feed. I mean, I think even in that new Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that movie, I think they were. I don't know what the fuck they were trying to do. Like,
yeah,
let's throw in some topics in there. You know, the kids will love it. School shootings, Confederate flags, capitalism.
exactly. You know, and they're not telling a horror story. Like there's no there's horrific things. There's in the case of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there's like violence and gore, but there's nothing
Yeah.
like emotionally engaging really. That makes you like feel dread or anything like that in there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that movie was just a mess. It's a bad example. But yeah, you look at like old movies that have this like, and maybe they could become political over time, and that's what makes the message a little bit like hit harder. Like the original Night of the Living Dead,
Yeah.
where our black hero survives the whole movie only to be shot at the end by a fucking dumb redneck.
Yeah, by a bunch of Trump supporters at the end of the movie.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like it's such a powerful moment in the movie. But if it was made today, yeah, he'd be wearing like a Trump hat, and it would just be like cartoonish or something
Well,
like that.
that's kind of what happens in the Candyman, the newer one, where the cops have like these like they look like the January 6th guys. You know what I mean? They got like these like beards and stuff and shaved heads.
Yeah, and they don't really make the police like a presence throughout the movie, where they just kind of show up at the end and like, all right, we're gonna tell you how this went down. It was comical, and it wasn't supposed to be.
Yeah.
This movie is definitely better than those. I want to say that.
No, this movie is definitely better. Yeah, and I'm being like maybe I'm very fragile these days. You know what I mean? Because of all this,
sure.
like I'm sensitive and my feelings get hurt sometimes. And maybe that's why I'm responding the way I am.
Yeah, well, it's fine.
Being a white male, I'm not allowed to have fragile feelings, but I do nonetheless.
You're a fragile guy, Mike. That's what I think about you when I think of Mike. I think fragile dude.
Yeah.
No, but I feel like yeah, this is like movie wants to have it's cake and eat it too. Like, oh, we want to make a movie about the nightmares of dating and frame it in this like cannibal horror story, which is kind of an odd choice,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's a skillfully directed movie. I mean, Mimi Cave is it? She obviously has talent and eye for visuals. Pacing a bit of an issue in this movie. You brought up the fact that it's how many minutes?
It's 114 minutes long. It's just shy of 2 hours.
This movie does not need to be 2 hours.
No.
I feel like it really drags in spots, and if you're gonna make a 2 hour movie, again, like would have rather they focused on the more interesting things I found interesting. Like the wife and like him basically trying to groom this prisoner of his to become his new, like, you're gonna be my new wife. That helps me with this. That was interesting, and like, but this, yeah, it just didn't really go anywhere with that stuff. And
You see, and in a way, they could have used that to to illustrate their agenda too. Like obviously Noah's quite a bit younger. His wife. Maybe that's. It would have had this. I think it would have had a really, really cynical vibe if it was like, okay, you're done. We're gonna eat you now, and she ascended to become his his new wife, and meanwhile his old wife gets consumed.
right, and yeah, there's like that one scene with the wife tells you so much. She's missing part of, like, you see her looking in a mirror and like pushing her skin back, like, gotta look young, gotta look fit, or this guy's gonna fucking eat me.
And that would have been someone who was interested in telling a horror story would have I think gone in that direction, as opposed to taking this kind of like middle of the road appealing. Oh, look, the bad guy gets killed. Well, spoiler alert: the bad guy gets killed in the end.
Yeah, all the bad guys are dead at the end.
Yeah, and I think that it that's a nice, neat ending. And everyone gets their their comeuppance. But it would have been, I think, a way stronger impact if something different happened.
Yeah, again, like, they kind of played the thing for laughs when, like, the wife shows up and like, she sees, like, that the husband's dead, and she shows no emotion, and maybe she's happy, but then she's obviously very angry because she tries to like kill the hero, or no, and then, like, again, it's kind of played for like a joke. She's like, "Who was that?" And her friend goes, "That was his wife." And she goes, "Oh, he was married?" Like, you just ate your friend's breast, and like, oh, he was married? Like, that's disgusting to you or surprising to you at that point? Like, I mean, I know it's supposed to be like a joke or whatever, but like, I don't know, it just didn't land with me. Like, I didn't find it. I mean, there, like I said, that you can mine humor from anything. But and that could have been like, I don't know, it's a little bit more subtle. Like, I thought it would have worked, but I don't know. I know I'm kind of shitting on this movie, but like, ultimately, I think it was pretty good.
Yeah, it looked great. It was like the craft of filmmaking was front and center in this for sure. I just have problems with. I just didn't. The beginning I thought was great. But I thought up until the point where it turns into a hostile movie, I thought it was great, and then it just became like the same old. Okay, cannibal, she's gonna escape. You just kind of know the whole story. It's you kind of see it coming, and that's why I wanted it to do something different than what I expected.
Yeah, I should have walked away from this like more disturbed and shaken, and instead it was just like, I felt like the characters at the end of the movie, like, oh, that's over with. But yeah, keep like the first 33 minutes I thought were almost perfect. Because, like I said, some of the dialogue scenes between her and her friend were a little, rom-com-ish. But other than that, like, the first, before the opening credits is pretty much like, yeah, it's great. And then kind of slowly falls apart over the longer second part of the movie. But if you were going to give it a grade, what would you say?
I got it down as a 3.
Yeah, me too. I wrote
Yeah.
down 3, and it's too bad because I really feel like this could be a great movie, but it just doesn't. I don't think it just wasn't fully realized.
Yeah.
It did not add up like in any sort of satisfying way. It just ended up kind of being a very well made kind of humdrum horror movie.
Do you think in Texas you'll be able to get your hands on some human flesh to eat?
I'll tell you what, man. If I do, I'll let you know.
Would you eat human flesh if you had the opportunity?
If I had the opportunity, I probably wouldn't know. I mean, out of maybe sheer desperation, I'd still probably have a problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, we're not talking about like if you're in a plane crash in the Andes or something like that. Like I'm talking about like you're hanging out and there's like this 30 grand meal of like finely prepared human flesh, with like kale and stuff. Would you go for it?
Nah, I don't think I could do it, man.
Nah.
I couldn't. What about you?
No, absolutely. Hard no. I don't think I could live with myself doing something like that.
Isn't eating like the afterbirth a thing? Like people eat like, after they give birth, people eat the placenta or something like that?
Maybe. I don't know. I think, maybe that might be an urban legend too. You know what I mean? Like I keep hearing about, that's like some like white lady stuff, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, like she's like a wellness instructor.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
It's just completely insane. Yeah. Yeah, they all live out here in California.
Yep.
But yeah, this is a well-made movie. Obviously, a director and writer with something to say, and curious to see what they come up with next. Maybe hopefully we'll like the next one better. But yeah, I have a feeling the next one might not be a horror movie.
Probably not. I seem to remember that in Mick Garris's interview with her that she said she really wasn't much of a horror fan. And that might have colored my opinion about this too. Because it's like, I mean, I read a lot of horror novels and short stories, and there's like, I don't know, you have to have a certain worldview, I think, to make films and write stories and write pieces of work that operate within this world,
I agree. I mean, yeah, totally agree. But yeah, three stars for me. Great acting from the leads. From pretty much everyone's pretty solid in their role, roles.
Yeah.
Interesting idea. Great first part, but yeah, could have been better. But some people really seem to love this movie, so good for them.
Yeah. And you guys out there, check it out. Let us know what you think. Everyone's got their own point of view, which is cool. And we'll talk to you next week.
All right, take care, everybody.
Oh, girl. Turn me on. Yeah. You know how. Oh, touch me soft. Oh, girl. Turn me on. Oh, turn me on. Oh, touch me soft. Oh, girl. Yeah. Don't touch me so. Oh, you know how. Yeah. Oh, girl. Oh, girl. Yeah. Oh, come on. Yeah. Oh, boy. Oh, girl. Oh, girl. Oh, girl.